In order to run this engine off of water, we've also had to learn the ability to adjust the burn rate of hydrogen to co-equal the fossil fuels. We did this by simply now...
In the shadows of scientific progress lie inventions that promised to reshape the world, but were never allowed to reach it. From cars that ran on water to machines that allegedly defied gravity, history is littered with brilliant minds whose discoveries were suppressed, ignored, or seized before they could see the light of day. Some were shut out by legal battles, others by government secrecy, and a few by the economic interests of powerful industries threatened by the very technologies they sought to silence. These are the stories of the most forbidden technologies and the silencing of their inventors. Let's get started. Number 10. Thomas Townsend Brown and Electrogravitics Research. Thomas Townsend Brown was an American inventor and experimental researcher, chiefly known for his investigations into what he called electrogravitics, a concept proposed to link high-voltage electrical fields with gravitational effects. Brown's earliest experiments date back to his teenage years in the 1920s, when he observed that a Coolidge X-ray tube placed on a scale seemed to change its weight when energized in different orientations. He coined the phenomenon the Biefeld-Brown effect, after physicist Paul Alfred Biefeld, his mentor, and filed patents beginning as early as 1928 for devices he called gravitators or gravitors. In the post-World War II era, Brown pursued his ideas actively, moving in 1952 to Cleveland with the aim of pitching his gravitator devices to military and aerospace interests. Around that time, he staged various demonstrations, including one at his laboratory in Hollywood in March 1952, where high-voltage assemblies of disc-shaped electrodes were shown to a visiting U.S. Air Force Major General, reportedly alarming him by their apparent anomalous movement. Brown claimed that in these experiments, discs around 2 feet in diameter, powered with tens of kilovolts, in some cases up to 50 kilovolts, with an applied power of 50 watts, exhibited movement around a central tethered rotor at speeds equivalent to tens of feet per second. One report notes a 20-foot diameter circular course and motion at approximately 17 feet per second with an applied 50 kilovolts. In 1953 and 1954, Brown submitted to the Pentagon a formal aerospace proposal labeled Project Winter Haven, which conceived of a Mach 3-capable disc-shaped interceptor aircraft driven by his electrogravitic technology. Concurrently, a 1956 report titled Electrogravitic Systems, issued by Aviation Studies International for the Air Force and aerospace industry, identified companies such as Glenn L. Martin, Convair, Sperry Rand, Bell, Sikorsky, Douglas, and Hiller as actively investigating electrogravitics issues. Despite the initial interest, the scientific consensus did not support Brown's interpretation of his results as a link between electricity and gravity. Follow-up investigations by the Office of Naval Research in September 1952 judged the effect to be a known phenomenon of electric wind, as in ionized air moving under a high field, and stated the thrust would diminish at higher voltages and vanish in a vacuum. As funding waned, Brown's proposals were shelved, corporate interest faded, and much of his work slipped into obscurity or into classified military files. While many of his early demonstrations are documented, no credible large-scale application of his technology emerged. His research and proposals were effectively sidelined. But this is just one example. There are a lot more from where that came. Number 9. Viktor Schauberger and Implosion and Fluid Dynamics Devices. Viktor Schauberger was born on the 30th of June 1885 in Holzschlag in Upper Austria, into a family of foresters. He trained and worked as a forester and early on became involved in timber flotation installations, his 1922 log flume system in Stirling, and then the 1926 installation at Neuburg and der Mürz in Styria cut transportation costs to a tenth of previous methods. Through these early years, he developed a theory of vortex flows in water and natural fluid dynamics. He observed how trout seemed to move effortlessly in spiral flows, and he concluded that machines should imitate these natural vortices instead of relying on explosion and straight-line flow. By the late 1920s and early 1930s, Schauberger had begun patenting inventions in the fields of water engineering and turbine construction, including patents for artificial channels for transporting logs and construction for fabricating tap water in Austria. In 1934, he was invited to Berlin to meet Adolf Hitler's chancellery to present his ideas on water, forestry, and natural engineering. However, his relationship with the Nazi regime proved fraught. Although he was enlisted to apply his fluid dynamics expertise, by the mid-1940s, he found himself compelled to work under SS supervision at the Technical College at Rosenhügel in Vienna, developing a device known as the repulsine, or repulsator. In 1944, he was moved to Leonstein in Upper Austria, still under SS direction, to continue his implosion-based experimentation in secret. At the end of the war in May 1945, his experimental devices, models, and documents were confiscated by American and Russian intelligence units. According to his correspondence, American agents came a few days after a demonstrated levitation test and removed his work. The Russians are said to have burned his Vienna apartment in case anything remained. Schauberger was placed in protective custody by American forces for 9 months, during which his output was evidently blocked and his direct research suppressed. In the post-war era, Schauberger returned to Austria and attempted to resume his work in civilian fields. For example, in 1952, his conical spiral copper pipe experiments were tested at Stuttgart Technical University, confirming partly his ideas on fluid flow. But in 1958, while visiting the United States at the invitation of American consortiums who required him to relinquish his rights, he signed away his patents and models in exchange for being allowed to return to Austria. He died 5 days after his return. Number 8. Stanley Meyer and the water fuel cell car. Stanley Meyer was an American inventor who, in the 1980s and 1990s, claimed to have developed a device he named a water fuel cell capable of powering a dune buggy-type vehicle on ordinary water rather than gasoline. According to Meyer, the device used high-voltage pulses and resonant circuitry to split water into hydrogen and oxygen at an energy cost far lower than standard electrolysis, and then burned the hydrogen in a conventional internal combustion engine, thereby supposedly producing a net energy gain. In 1996, Meyer was taken to court by 2 investors residing in Ohio who alleged that his claims were false. The Ohio court found that Meyer's water fuel cell was nothing more than conventional electrolysis, and declared his actions to be gross and egregious fraud, ordering him to repay his investors the $25,000 they had provided. While the courtroom proceedings marked a legal end to his public claims, Meyer continued to assert that vested interests, particularly in the oil and automotive sectors, were actively working to suppress his invention, a claim that remains unverified. On March 20, 1998, Stanley Meyer died suddenly in a restaurant in Grove City, Ohio. His brother Stephen reported that Meyer, during a meeting with 2 Belgian investors, took a sip of cranberry juice, then clutched his throat and ran out of the restaurant, uttering, "They poisoned me," before collapsing. The Franklin County coroner's report, supported by the local police, ruled the cause of death a cerebral aneurysm associated with long-standing high blood pressure. Number 7. Nikola Tesla and wireless power transmission. Nikola Tesla, a Serbian-American inventor and electrical engineer, revolutionized modern power systems with his development of alternating current. Yet his most ambitious pursuit, wireless power transmission, revealed both his genius and the constraints of his era. Beginning in 1901, Tesla constructed the Wardenclyffe Tower in Shoreham, Long Island, a 187-foot structure designed to transmit electricity and communication signals globally through the Earth's natural resonances. Funded by financier J.P. Morgan, who invested about $150,000, over $5 million today, the tower's experiments included lighting wireless lamps up to 26 miles away using high-frequency alternating currents. Tesla envisioned a world where energy flowed freely across continents without wires. However, by 1906, Morgan and other investors withdrew support, realizing that free wireless energy would undermine profits from metered power. Financial collapse followed, and by 1917, the tower was dismantled for scrap. Though Tesla died in obscurity, his vision of global wireless energy endures as one of the most compelling what-ifs in scientific history. But wait, there's more. Number 6. John Worrell Keely and Keely Motor. John Worrell Keely was an American inventor from Philadelphia who gained fame in the late 19th century for his claims of discovering a mysterious new energy source, which he termed etheric force or vibratory sympathetic force. Keely conducted public demonstrations of his so-called vibratory motor, a device that appeared to generate immense power without any visible fuel source. Reports from the Scientific American Archives describe one demonstration where Keely's compact engine allegedly lifted a 200-pound weight, astounding audiences and attracting prominent investors. His workshop was kept under tight secrecy. Only trusted assistants were permitted inside, and he refused to allow independent inspection of his mechanisms, claiming that exposure would neutralize the delicate forces at play. Over his lifetime, Keely raised an estimated $500,000, around $15 million today, from investors hoping to commercialize his technology. The Keely Motor Company, founded in 1888, sought to industrialize his machines, but repeated technical analyses revealed concealed air reservoirs and hidden tubing, suggesting that compressed air, not unknown forces, powered the demonstrations. After Keely died in 1898, investigators confirmed the fraud. Number 5. The electric power systems rivalries. The late 19th century rivalry between direct current and alternating current power systems, often referred to as the War of Currents, was a pivotal moment in the history of electricity. Thomas Edison, an American inventor based in Menlo Park, New Jersey, championed DC electricity, which he had developed and deployed for lighting and small-scale industrial applications. DC power had the advantage of being relatively safe and well understood, but it could only transmit electricity efficiently over short distances, typically less than 1 mile, without significant energy loss. In contrast, Nikola Tesla, working with industrialist George Westinghouse in the mid-1880s, developed and promoted AC electricity, which could be transformed to high voltages for long-distance transmission and then stepped down for consumer use. AC systems could transmit power tens of miles from a central generating station, making them vastly more suitable for widespread electrification. This technological advantage, however, sparked intense competition, with Edison and his backers actively campaigning against AC. Edison organized public demonstrations showing the dangers of high-voltage AC, including the electrocution of animals, culminating in its use in the first electric chair execution in 1890 to emphasize safety risks. Despite Edison's efforts, AC gained traction. In 1893, Westinghouse and Tesla's AC system successfully powered the world's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, lighting over 200,000 lamps across the fairgrounds. This high-profile demonstration showcased AC's safety and scalability, effectively undermining Edison's anti-AC campaigns. In 1896, the AC system was selected to transmit electricity from Niagara Falls to Buffalo, New York, a 20-mile stretch marking the first large-scale hydroelectric project in the United States. The success of Niagara Falls confirmed AC as the standard for electricity transmission. Over time, Edison's DC systems were gradually phased out in favor of AC for long-distance distribution, though DC saw a later resurgence in specialized applications like high-voltage direct current transmission in the 20th century. Number 4. Wilhelm Reich and the orgone energy accumulator. Wilhelm Reich was an Austrian psychoanalyst and inventor who became a controversial figure for his claims regarding a universal life force he called orgone energy. Reich, trained in medicine and psychoanalysis in Vienna, initially studied under Sigmund Freud, but later shifted toward bioenergetics, theorizing that orgone permeated all living matter and could be harnessed for health and environmental purposes. By the late 1940s, Reich had immigrated to the United States and established the Orgone Institute in Maine and later in Rangeley, where he constructed devices known as orgone accumulators. These were wooden or metal boxes layered with organic and metallic materials, which he claimed could concentrate orgone energy for therapeutic use. Reich asserted that orgone energy could improve physical and mental health, and even weather conditions. He published several books detailing his theories and experiments, including The Function of the Orgasm, Character Analysis, and later The Cancer Biopathy, which proposed that a deficiency of orgone energy was linked to disease. His claims drew skepticism from the scientific community, and by the early 1950s, US health authorities began investigating him for promoting unproven medical devices and misleading health claims. In 1954, the FDA obtained a federal injunction banning the interstate shipment of orgone accumulators and associated publications. Reich defied the injunction, continuing to distribute accumulators and write about orgone energy. In 1956, US Marshals seized his equipment and thousands of books and journals, which were later destroyed by burning under FDA supervision. Reich was convicted of contempt of court. He died in the United States Penitentiary, Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, on November 3, 1957. Number 3. Hugo Gernsback's early television and wireless experiments. Hugo Gernsback was a Luxembourg-born American inventor, writer, and publisher who played a pioneering role in the development of early television, radio, and wireless communication technologies. After immigrating to the United States in 1904, Gernsback began experimenting with radio transmissions, electromechanical devices, and early television prototypes. By 1909, he had patented an oscillating receiver for wireless communication, which laid the groundwork for more complex radio and television systems. Gernsback's work in the 1910s and 1920s included experiments with mechanical television systems, which relied on spinning discs with perforations or mirrors to scan images line by line. In 1925, he successfully transmitted crude visual images over radio waves. However, the development of these technologies was complicated by a tangle of patent disputes and legal challenges. Companies such as Radio Corporation of America, Westinghouse, and Bell Labs were concurrently developing radio and television technologies, and often claimed overlapping intellectual property. These disputes delayed the commercial deployment of television and constrained independent inventors like Gernsback from fully exploiting their designs. In addition to technical challenges, Gernsback faced financial hurdles. He founded Electro Importing Company in 1908 to sell radio components and experiment kits, but it faced frequent patent battles and accusations of patent infringement. These required costly legal defense. Despite these obstacles, Gernsback became more widely known as a publisher and promoter of science fiction, launching Amazing Stories in 1926, where he popularized speculative visions of technology, including television and wireless communication. Although his early mechanical television systems were eventually supplanted by electronic systems developed by Philo Farnsworth and Vladimir Zworykin. In the 1930s, Gernsback's contributions remain significant for the experimental demonstration of transmitting images via electromagnetic waves. Number 2. Government-restricted military patents. The Invention Secrecy Act of 1951 allows the government to restrict the publication or commercial use of inventions deemed sensitive to national security. Under the Act, the US Patent and Trademark Office can place a secrecy order on an inventor's patent application, effectively preventing the inventor from disclosing, filing abroad, or selling the invention without government authorization. This measure covers a wide range of technologies, including nuclear devices, cryptography, aerospace systems, advanced electronics, and other dual-use technologies that could have military applications. Since its enactment, the law has been actively applied. In the early 1950s, for example, over 200 patent applications per year were placed under secrecy orders, a figure that has fluctuated over the decades depending on geopolitical conditions. During the Cold War, the number of secrecy orders increased significantly due to the sensitive nature of nuclear research and aerospace technology, often affecting small independent inventors, universities, and large defense contractors alike. A famous instance involved patents on high-energy particle accelerators in 1954, where researchers at institutions like MIT and the University of California were legally prohibited from publishing their work until government review was complete. The secrecy orders are legally binding, and violations can result in severe civil or criminal penalties, including fines and imprisonment. Inventors placed under such orders are typically required to submit detailed technical reports to agencies such as the Department of Defense, Department of Energy, or the National Security Agency. Patents under secrecy orders are reviewed periodically. Some remain classified for decades, while others are eventually declassified when deemed no longer sensitive. For example, certain aerospace and electronic warfare patents from the 1960s and 1970s were only released to the public in the 1990s. Number 1. Viktor Grebenikov and anti-gravity technology. Viktor Stepanovich. Grebenikov was a Russian naturalist, entomologist, and paranormal researcher who claimed to have discovered what he called the cavity structural effect, and to have built a levitating platform based on it. Grebenikov's key claim arose in 1988. According to his writings, while studying insect wing chitin and honeycomb structures, he observed unnatural phenomena. A microscopic plate slipped from his tweezers, hovered for a few seconds above another plate before dropping, a behavior he interpreted as evidence of a novel force field. He coined the term cavity structural effect to describe the idea that geometric arrays of cavities, natural or artificial, could generate an as-yet unmeasured force. In his article from 1984, he described how materials with cavernous microstructures seemed to affect biological organisms, even though conventional instruments, such as magnetometers and electrometers, registered no anomaly. Based on these claims, Grebenikov asserted that between 1991 and 1992, he used a levitating platform built by arranging thousands of chitin plates or honeycomb-like units beneath a small mounting board, forming what he called an anti-gravity vehicle, capable of silently floating and traveling at speeds up to 25 kilometers per minute, which is 1,500 kilometers per hour, according to his reports. He described a bubble force field around the craft, insulating it from air currents and making it invisible from below, a claim appearing in his self-published book, My World. However, beyond his own descriptions, there is no independently verified demonstration, peer-reviewed publication of the platform, or reproducible experiment. His patent application, filed in Russia in 1993 for a device involving beehive cells that purportedly enhanced medical delivery, indicates his continued experimental activity, though it does not substantiate the anti-gravity assertions. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Did you like this video? If you did, please consider liking, dropping a comment, and hitting the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on our new uploads. Also, don't miss this video you see on your screen right now. It's truly unbelievable.